In Never Have I Ever, the character of Nalini Vishwakarma is often seen as strict, emotionally distant, and overly controlling. To many viewers, she feels like the problematic Indian mom stereotype, harsh, critical, and obsessed with discipline. But labeling her as simply toxic would ignore the deep pain she carries. Nalini is not just a strict mother, she is a grieving widow. After the sudden death of her husband, Mohan Vishwakarma, her entire world collapses. She doesn't just lose a partner. She loses emotional stability, companionship, and the person who balanced her personality. Grief doesn't always look soft and tearful. Sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like control. Sometimes it looks like shutting down emotionally. Nalini's strictness often feels less like cruelty and more like survival mode. As an immigrant mother raising a teenage daughter in America, she also carries cultural pressure. She wants Devi to succeed, to be respected, to avoid mistakes. But her fear of losing control turns into suffocation for Devi. So the real question isn't just, was she problematic? It's, was she hurting? And the truth is, she was both. 1. She controlled Devi's social life. Nalini constantly interfered in Devi's friendships and romantic choices because she feared distractions would ruin her future. She believed strict boundaries would protect her daughter from heartbreak and bad decisions. However, this control made Devi feel suffocated and misunderstood. Instead of creating safety, it created secrecy. Devi began hiding things rather than seeking advice. Nalini's lack of trust pushed Devi to rebel even more. Her intentions were protective, but her execution felt authoritarian. She rarely asked Devi what she actually felt. This created emotional distance between them. In trying to prevent mistakes, she unintentionally encouraged them. 2. She avoided emotional conversations. After Mohan's death, Nalini struggled to openly discuss grief. She chose silence over vulnerability because facing pain felt unbearable. Devi, however, needed shared mourning and reassurance. The absence of those conversations left Devi feeling alone in her sadness. Nalini believed staying strong meant not breaking down. But emotional avoidance created misunderstanding. Devi interpreted her mother's silence as coldness. Nalini's coping mechanism was emotional suppression. This prevented healing for both of them. Their unspoken grief turned into tension and anger. 3. She used fear as discipline. Nalini often used extreme consequences, like threatening to send Devi to India. She believed fear would correct behavior quickly. Instead, it increased anxiety and resentment. Devi felt punished rather than guided. Fear-based parenting limited open communication. It made mistakes feel catastrophic instead of teachable moments. Nalini acted out of panic rather than calm reasoning. Her grief made her overly reactive. This pattern damaged trust between them. Discipline without empathy created emotional walls. 4. She struggled to show affection. Nalini loved Devi deeply but struggled to express it gently. Her love came through responsibility, not warmth. Devi, as a teenager, needed verbal reassurance. Nalini rarely hugged or comforted her during emotional breakdowns. This made Devi question whether she was truly understood. Cultural upbringing also shaped Nalini's reserved nature. She equated love with sacrifice and provision. However, emotional absence felt like rejection to Devi. Affection was present but poorly communicated. That gap created insecurity. 5. She projected her own grief. Nalini often reacted harshly because she hadn't processed her own pain. Her unresolved grief surfaced as irritability. When Devi acted out, Nalini saw it as disrespect instead of trauma. She expected strength because she demanded it from herself. This projection blurred compassion. Her anger sometimes masked heartbreak. Instead of admitting vulnerability, she tightened control. Devi became the outlet for suppressed emotions. Grief distorted her patience. Emotional overload turned into criticism. 6. She had unrealistic expectations. Nalini expected academic excellence at all times. She viewed success as the only secure path in a foreign country. Devi's mistakes felt like threats to stability. This pressure intensified Devi's anxiety. Teenagers need space to fail safely. Nalini rarely allowed that flexibility. Her high standards came from fear of societal judgment. She wanted Devi to be extraordinary, not average. But constant pressure diminished emotional connection. Expectations overshadowed understanding. 7. She compared Devi to others. Nalini sometimes compared Devi to more disciplined or successful peers. She believed comparison would motivate improvement. Instead, it hurt Devi's self-esteem. Being measured against others created insecurity. Devi felt she could never be enough. Comparisons ignored Devi's individuality. They reinforced performance-based worth. Nalini likely experienced similar pressures growing up. But repeating that pattern perpetuated emotional damage. Validation was replaced with competition. This weakened Devi's confidence. 8. She dismissed therapy initially. Nalini struggled to fully accept Devi's need for therapy at first. Mental health conversations felt unfamiliar and uncomfortable to her. She believed resilience meant handling pain privately. Devi's paralysis and trauma required professional help. Nalini's hesitation delayed emotional support. Cultural stigma influenced her reaction. Over time, she began to understand its importance. Her resistance came from ignorance, not cruelty. Still, it invalidated Devi's experience initially. Acceptance came slowly but significantly. 9. She tried to replace stability with control. After losing Mohan, Nalini felt her life spiral unexpectedly. Control became her way of preventing further chaos. She micromanaged schedules and decisions. Predictability gave her emotional security. However, life with a teenager cannot be fully controlled. This rigid structure created conflict. Nalini equated order with safety. Devi equated it with imprisonment. The more uncertain Nalini felt inside, the stricter she became outside. Control became a coping mechanism. 10. She carried cultural pride too rigidly. Nalini held tightly to her Indian identity and traditions. She feared Devi would lose cultural values. Her rigidity sometimes dismissed Devi's hybrid identity. Devi felt torn between two worlds. Nalini saw American teenage culture as dangerous. This created generational conflict. Cultural protection turned into cultural pressure. Nalini struggled to adapt while parenting in a different society. Her fear of cultural loss intensified strictness. Over time, she learned balance, but not without damage first. Nalini Vishwakarma was not a villain. She was a grieving woman trying to parent while drowning in her own heartbreak. Her flaws came from fear, fear of losing more, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. Her strictness was armor. Her anger was grief. Her control was anxiety. None of it excuses the emotional damage, but it explains it. Over time in Never Have I Ever, we see her soften. We see her apologize. We see her try. And that growth matters. Parenthood is messy. Grief makes it messier. Nalini's journey shows that even deeply flawed parents can learn, heal, and love better. In the end, she wasn't just problematic. She was human.